Is this a terrible idea? Probably. Lucky I've already ruined these jeans. Open? No. Like, I just don't understand how or why it's happening. Or tilt it really far back and people see right up my nose, so that's super fun. In theory, it should work. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today we're doing some DIYs for my office makeover, which I actually did that last week. I made over this little nook in my lounge room or my living room and turned it into a little office for myself because I really needed one. So today we're going to jump into doing 3 different DIY projects to get this space a little bit more practical and useful for my purposes, which is mostly storage and just like making it look pretty. They're really my two main purposes. I think we should definitely head downstairs now and get into those office DIYs. The first DIY project I'm going to do was actually inspired by a need for storage and also the Sorry Girls. So a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I saw that Rachel had done a book where you can open it up and store things inside. So I'm kind of taking that base idea of turning a book into storage, which I know obviously they're not the first people to do that. There's plenty of other people out there that have done that before, and you can even just buy those storage things straight up. But I'm going to take that idea and turn it into something a little bit more practical for me. For this DIY project, you will need to find yourself a book, ideally one that's really thick. I got this one from the thrift store. It was $4.25, so very, very cheap. And to make me feel a little bit better about cutting the pages out of the book, it is already falling apart. Like, the seam along here is broken. It has been graffitied as well, so someone's put a hippie peace sign. It's definitely a book that's in rough shape. I will keep the pages because it is a French learning book and I am learning French, but we will be cutting them out. You will also need either some wood pieces or MDF. I've got some poplar wood that I got from Home Depot. You'll also need an X-Acto knife to cut out the pages. And to glue everything down, I'm going to use some E6000 glue, and to kind of give a little bit more of a realistic effect to it, I will be painting the wood white and using a chip brush to add texture. The first thing we need to do is use an X-Acto knife to carefully remove the pages from the book cover. After removing those pages, I did notice that the inside of the cover was lifting up a bit, so I used some Mod Podge to glue it back down. This is a step that you might not need to do if you recreate this DIY, but I definitely had to do it for this one. To cut the wood, you will need either a saw, miter saw, or a circular saw. I'm going to use my miter saw because I have one and it's easy for me, but you can definitely do this by hand. You can also use an X-Acto knife if you use MDF instead of the wood, which is what the Sorry Girls used when they did theirs. I'll link that video below, by the way, just in case you guys want to check it out. We've got all our pieces here. I have 2 of the outside side pieces, 2 of the inside side, a base, a front piece, and a back piece. They've all had a little bit of a sand as well, so they're ready to be painted, or the pieces that I'm going to paint are ready to be painted. We will be painting one side of each of these 3 pieces, so the 2 outer pieces and the front piece, and that's with the color Lamp White by Fusion. I don't envision myself using it in a furniture flip. I think it's just like, gosh, really stuck. I think it's too, hot damn. Is this a terrible idea? Probably. Let's not lose a finger. There we go. As I was saying, I don't envision myself using this particular paint color on a piece of furniture. I think it's just like a little bit more white than what I want. So we're going to use it to create book pages. My plan for this is just to brush it on very generously, wait for it to dry just a tiny bit, and then come in with a chip brush and kind of create some lines in my paint. Just getting paint everywhere. Lucky I've already ruined these jeans. Did end up going back in with some Champlain, it's by Fusion Mineral Paint as well, and going over the Lamp White just to create a little bit more of an aged page look. And this is the page effect that's going on, so you can see it's got some texture and detail there. I think it's just enough to make it look not real, but just to add a little bit of texture, you know, so it's not just like a flat surface. We're going to take our book cover and the 2 exterior side pieces and pop them into place with a little bit of E6000 glue.
Sometimes we act like a fool, not aware we're trouble.
I'm gonna have to pop something not too heavy, but just enough pressure on there just to keep everything in place so it doesn't move.
What if the world had more of your smile?
To create the drawer, I'm using E6000 to glue the base, sides, front and back together. To be honest, I totally could have used wood glue for this part because I was gluing wood to wood rather than wood to the book cover, but the E6000 still did the trick.
Maybe the birds will sing about your heart. Maybe the trees will whisper the word. Maybe the sun will spread your joy to the world.
This is how the book is looking at the moment. We've got the side pieces on. It's feeling fairly solid. I did also put a little piece of MDF along the spine. If I was doing this project again, I would actually take some slightly different measurements for here, and I would make the two sides and the back just a little bit lower than the front. And the reason is that I think for additional stability, having a piece of MDF on the top, just like in the spine, will support it a little more. If I was to put a piece of MDF in now, the drawer wouldn't open. So if you guys do this project, I would add some additional support underneath the top if you plan to put something on top of this. Support is always good. We need to finish this piece, and the last step is just to add a little bit of ribbon. So we're just going to take a little bit of the ribbon, fold it over to the length that I want to have. Cut that. To actually attach this, I am going to use a little bit of hot glue. I could use fabric glue, I could use E6000. I'm going with the hot glue because it will dry a lot faster. I'm just putting a small amount of hot glue on the end of the ribbon and then folding it over so that it creates a loop. Then using a tape measure, we're going to find the center of the book and do the exact same thing with a little bit of hot glue on the book this time, and then pressing the ribbon in to attach it to the book. I'm also going to pop a little bit of glue just on this top part so that the ribbon stays like that.
I'm dreaming of you. Dreaming of you. Dreaming of you. Dreaming of you.
So we've got our book here. It all fits inside, and there will be some pressure on the top, obviously. With my lamp, we pull on that, it opens, and then we can just close it. So open, close, open, close. I'm having too much fun with that. I love it. It's so perfect. Page texture, the little ribbon. It's amazing. I'm so happy with this DIY. I definitely recommend this for anyone who has an office or just needs something that has like a little bit more storage, but you don't want it to be obvious storage. It's perfect. Next DIY. There's a blank space on the wooden slat frame above my desk, and I wanted to fill it with something. Originally I was kind of thinking maybe I could do a picture. Then I remembered that I had this old cork board just sitting in my storage, and so I thought I could make like an actual mood board. Most of the time I have my mood boards on Milanote, but why not have one in person? I think having something that is decorative and also can have a functional purpose is going to be a great move, especially above my desk. So for this particular project, the first thing that you're going to need is a corkboard. I have this one. Like I said, it's in storage. It's not in the best condition. There's a couple chips and different things in it. So we're going to make that much prettier. Then I have some loft batting, which I picked up from the craft store. I decided to go with the green velvet that I did my lounge in, just to kind of tie the two spaces, which are technically in the same room, together. So I've got green velvet here that's going to go over the top, scissors, and also a staple gun. First things first, we're going to take the loft batting and cover the corkboard. This will just add a little bit extra padding to it because at the moment it's, you know, it's just the cork. So first things first, we're going to lay the corkboard down on top. Much like with chair reupholstery, I'm going to pop a staple in the center, pull that tight, do the same on each of the sides, and then we'll keep pulling tight going around. So that's all done. That's what it's looking like. It's got a little bit more padding around it, which I think is good. So now we need to pop the velvet over the top and do exactly the same thing. So when you're doing this, you can feel underneath the fabric where the staples are. So obviously when you're putting in your next staple, don't put it in the same place as the last one. So I'm just trying to pull a little tighter with this than I did with the backing, just so that I make sure it's like very, very slick. This is what it's looking like from the front. There's a couple of little bits on there. I'll have to get those off. That's what it looks like at the front. That's what it looks like at the back. You could probably stop here if you wanted to, but I want to do a little bit more, in part because the back of this will be seen potentially a little bit through the slats. I know there's the fridge there, so it might stop most of it, but depending on how high I hang it, may end up impacting the back. So essentially what I've decided to do is take a little bit of this black felt. I'm going to cut it to size, and then rather than stapling it in place, I'm going to use some fabric glue and just set the felt in place on the back, so it's kind of all the messy bits are hidden. Nobody's going to see them no matter what. There's just one final step for this project. So we're just going to pop in some of these D-rings on the back so that they have something that they can hang on to when I pop it up. So we're just going to attach these on either side at equal heights. We don't want it to be crooked, so around about there. Because the corkboard underneath had a wood frame, this is going to make it much easier. I can just screw straight into the wood and attach that. Oh, the head broke off. Oh my god! I have no idea how that's happened, but the head of the screw broke off. The actual screw is fully in there. It's just that. Now it's on the floor. Cool, well, let's try again. Okay, well that one hasn't broken off, so we're already doing better. Yeah, we're good. I still can't believe that. The same thing happened. You guys, the exact same thing happened. It must be the fabric. Like, I just don't understand how or why it's happening. We lost another one. It's gone. Okay. Second time's the charm on both of those. No idea what's going on with these screw heads. Well, other than the fact that this fabric is obviously like knives, this is all done. And honestly, probably one of the fastest and easiest DIYs I've ever done. You could definitely take this a step further and put a wood frame around it. I might do that at some point, but for the moment I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. So let's go pop this up and put a couple of mood board pictures on there. Feel like, you know, gotta get those mood board vibes happening. Don't know what I'm doing with my shoulders, but they're obviously excited for the mood board. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Let's go and put this up now. The final DIY for today is going to be a riser for my computer monitor. During work meetings, when my laptop has been in front, it covers part of the screen. And so to try and see my second screen, it means I have to tilt my main screen down where the camera is, or tilt it really far back and people see right up my nose, so that's super fun. It's just not practical, so we need to get that monitor lifted up a little bit. I actually bought the wrong size legs when I did the DIY lounge, which I'll link above, and so I had to cut off some of this pretty design detail, which I was a bit sad about, but it's worked out well because I can use it as the legs for my riser. Then we've got this laminated wood board here, which is left over from a different project. We're also going to need some wood glue glue, a wooden dowel, and mitre shears. Also a mitre saw if you have one, if you've got legs like this that you need to cut down. You can do it by hand as well, but I have a mitre saw, so I'm just going to take the easy path. Because these legs are all kind of slightly different heights, I think what I'm going to do is use this as a guide. This is a cutoff from an IKEA spice rack. So my plan is to pop this in here, kind of like this, and then draw a line so it will be equal on every single piece when I make my cut. In theory, it should work.
There is a life I lead in this city.
With the legs all cut, it's now time to cut the wood board down to size, and to do this I'm just using my circular saw.
It doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow.
Next up, we're going to drill in the tops of each of these, just make a pilot hole so that we can get this wooden dowel fitted in there.
Will you carry me like I am home? Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong.
By adding Sharpie ink to the end of the wooden dowel, when I press it into the wood, it actually creates a mark showing me exactly where I need to drill a hole. Also, make sure you remember to be careful when you drill so that you don't drill all the way through the wood board. I really want to make sure that the legs are sturdy, so to add even more support, I'm using a little bit of wood glue on the legs and the board to join those together.
It's all gone. If I could take you back to my youth and show you what I wish I knew. My will is strong with a place to lean. In the moment I hung desperately. The other ring on my wrist is gold.
Look at it. Pretty good actually. So sometimes my design ideas come to me as I build a project. I don't fully think about everything in advance, which in the case of this riser, I did actually sand the edges to kind of curve them out a little bit. Had I realized in advance that I wanted a curve on the edge rather than the more square look, I probably would have cut those curves with my jigsaw before I put the legs on, just to have it a little bit more seamless rather than trying to sand it with the legs on, trying not to hit the legs, all of those things. But in saying that, I do think that the curves look good. So now we're going to pop on a coat of paint. It's the same color paint that I painted the slat wall in my office makeover. When I showed that makeover in the video, I showed you the riser here, and I actually asked what you guys thought, whether I should paint it the same color as the slats or if I should stain it or leave it as is. And it was definitely to paint it, which was my instinct as it was anyway. The actual color is called Cracked Pepper and it's by Bear. We're done with our office DIYs, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this week's video. Let me know which DIY was your favorite. The book is for sure 100% my favorite. I love it so much. I'll see you guys next week with another video. It is very exciting. Might be a little Christmas themed, so subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on that video or any of my others coming up, and you can follow me over on Instagram as well. I'll see you next week. Bye. In my office mate, you're a bit crooked. This is Hey, shush, I'm filming. How rude. Thank you. Brush the other way.